Hello everyone, welcome or welcome back to my channel. You're watching Swathi's Commerce Tutorials. If you are new to this channel, then let me tell you this channel is entirely based upon educational content where I'll be uploading various educational videos, and currently I'm focusing on your NTA UGC NET Commerce examination, and I've made various series on the subject matter of your NTA UGC NET Commerce, and currently, we are focusing on your Unit 1 of NTA UGC NET, which is Business Environment and International Business. If you want to know all the previous content and what are all was discussed before this class, then I'll leave the links to all these videos in the description box down below, as well as I'll leave a link to the playlist in the I button up there. So, without any further ado, let us quickly start today's session. I'll give you a brief introduction on this globalization and then we'll move on to this topic. In previous class, we have studied that there is a new industrial policy which was launched in the year 1991, which came up with the three topics of liberalization, privatization, and globalization, where liberalization focused on removing the restrictions and barriers which was relating to the international trade. Privatization focused on removing strict control on the private sectors of the economy, and then came the important topic, which is globalization. Globalization is an integration of the world economy with the global economy, and we have also learned about how did globalization impact and how did the drivers of globalization had a huge impact on the Indian economy. In today's class, we are going to learn about the strategies of entering into this global world, that is, strategies of globalization. First of all, we can see exporting. As we know, exporting means whenever a country is going to sell its goods from one country to another country, at that time we call the term as export. It is the most traditional strategy of entering into the foreign market because there is less amount of risk involved here. And here we focus on the volume of the business if it is not very large and you can justify the production in the foreign market. That means your production in the home country is such that you can satisfy the needs of the domestic market, plus you have certain additional surplus which you can sell in the foreign market as well. At that time, you can use this exporting as one of the modes to enter into the global market. Second is, if the cost of production in the foreign market is high, that means you cannot make the production in the foreign market. So you produce large amount of goods in the home country itself, and then whatever surplus, as I said in the previous point, you will sell it to the foreign country. Thirdly, foreign market is characterized by production criteria like infrastructural problems and problems of raw materials. So there is a lack of these substances in the foreign market. So if you are in a position to satisfy all the needs which the foreign market is lacking, at that time exporting is one of the best modes to enter into the foreign market. There are political and other risks of investment in the foreign market as well, so you have to be careful before entering into which country you're going to export. The company has no permanent interest in the foreign market. That is, you are going to make the sales only for the profit, and your primary motive as of now is not to make an impact in the foreign market. And that is why you have chosen exporting. And also, foreign investment is not favored by foreign country. And other ways, if you're not choosing this exporting, you have many other ways like licensing or contract manufacturing. You also have franchising, but it is not considered as a better alternative as per your country. At that time, on the whole, exporting can be considered as one of the best option. So this is the first mode to enter into the foreign market, that is in the global market. So I hope you have understood this first point. Let us see what are all the different modes. We'll move on to the second point now. Second talks about licensing and franchising. Now, before understanding about licensing and franchising, we have to understand what does licensing and franchising mean. So here we start. Under international licensing, there are especially two types of a firm, that is the country. One will be the licensor and the other will be the licensee. Now, what does these two countries do? You may ask me. Here there is country 1, let me name this as C1 and C2. Here C1 is the licensor country where it gives the permission to the another country, that is C2, to use its intellectual property. Now, what is intellectual property? These are those property which you can not see, which you cannot touch or you cannot feel. These are like your intangible assets, your patents, copyrights, trademarks, etc. So you have a good hold on the patents, trademarks, and the copyrights. That is, the C1 has a good amount of intellectual property. So what does it do? It will provide the permission to use this intellectual property to another country. Now, no country will give the benefits of using their intellectual property to another without some benefits, is it not? So they will expect something in return to flow, and that return is known as royalty. Now C2 has to pay royalty to the C1 in exchange for the intellectual property which they are going to receive. Now this is one more mode to enter into the global market. Now if you are not more into these licensing firm, that is you do not have that intellectual property at that time, do you want to enter into a global field but in a different manner? Then you have an option to do so, and that says about franchising. If you are a parent company and you have a good hold on the business, not on the intellectual property, but you have a good hold on a business, at that time, what you can do is you can enter into a franchising form of globalizing. At that time, franchising is a form of licensing. It is like licensing where there is a parent company and that is known as a franchisor. Like we call the C1 as licensor, here we'll call the C1 as a franchisor. So C2 was called as licensee in this term. Here we'll call it as franchisee. Now what is happening here? Let us study. C1, that is the parent company, or in other terms, I can call it as a franchisor, will grant another independent entity, that is the franchisee, the right to do business. Now, here there was the permission, but to use the intellectual property, but here what we are sharing, that is the right to do the business, but now it is the business in a prescribed manner. That is, if C1 wants to share the permission to the C2 to do its business in the home country, but they have to do a business with a condition. What is the condition? Whatever instruction the C1 is giving them to C2, same thing they have to follow, and similarly they have to do the business. Only if these two agree for this condition, at that time they can opt for entering into this globalization by the form of franchising. Okay, I hope the meaning is clear. One of the most important risks of licensing is that licensor would have developed potential competitor and licensee would have become a competitor after expiry of licensing agreement. That is, you have given the intellectual property to them. Now they have used that intellectual property. That means that they know all the technical know-how, how to use that intellectual property, how to build networking and all. So if they know the secrets of building this intellectual property, then this firm or this country itself will be a big competition to you. So that is one big competition which you can see in terms of licensing. Now, both these terms, licensing or franchising, requires neither capital investment or not knowledge and marketing strength in the foreign market. Okay. Now, we have covered three types of modes in order to enter into the foreign market. Let us move on to the next. Next mode talks about contract manufacturing. Now, contract manufacturing means that there are two terms here attached. One is contract and the other is manufacturing. That is, if a company is doing an international marketing contract, that means it is a contract manufacturing firm. And that firm is in a foreign country. Okay, that firm is in a foreign country. Now, what does it do? It manufactures something or it assembles the products while retaining the responsibility of marketing the product. So I hope this line was understood for you. There is a company in a foreign country which is indulged in marketing contract and also it does manufacture or assembles the product. Now, what does it do for entering into that contract manufacturing mode of globalization is that Contract manufacturing has a number of advantages because the company does not need the resource for setting up the production facility. Because this business is about assembling the products, you need not have the resource. The resources will be readily available to you. You just have to assemble them. That is why it is very less risky when compared to other modes of entering the globalization. If business does not pick up, that is, if at all it enters into a loss, it may be dropped easily. There is no risk involved in this aspect. Contract manufacturing has the risk of developing potential competitors. Be it any mode of entering into the globalization, this factor can be seen in every point. There are competitors everywhere, so you can keep that in point. Moving on to the next mode of globalization, that is management contracting. Now, management contracting is where there is a supplier and the supplier brings together a package of skills, that is, skills to do a certain task. And that skills will be provided to an integrate service, and that client will be using this and he will not incur the risk and benefits of ownership. Okay, so that is what management contractor speaks about or contracting speaks about. This has also been defined by Philip Kotler as management contracting is a low risk method of entering into the foreign market and it starts yielding income right from the beginning because they are providing with a package of skills to another firm. They have to use this skill set and without any risk or benefit of owning that skills, they just have to perform the task as unsaid. That is why it is very risky. One more point says that in this type of contracting, if given an option to purchase some shares in the management company, at that time they can do so within a stated period. Some Indian companies I have mentioned here, like Tata Tea, Harrison Malya, and AVT, have contracts to manage a number of plantation in Sri Lanka. Why? Because these people have the skill set and they do not have the ownership, but they will provide a skill set and they will manage the plantations in Sri Lanka. That is how this method of entering into the globalization works. Although there is one limitations attached to it, that is, it may prevent the foreign parent company from setting up its own operation for a particular period. That is, because they are helping another country in order to establish and growing their firm by using the skill set, they themselves can have a setback because they are not concentrating on their own operations for a particular period. So that is one type of a drawback which you can see here. So here we have completed total five types of entering the global market. We'll move on to the sixth types, which is a turnkey contract or also famously known as a turnkey project. Now, what is this turnkey contract or a turnkey project? It is an operation, and here there is an agreement by the seller to supply the buyer with facility fully equipped and ready to be operated by the buyer's person who will be trained by the seller. Now I'll read this again and I'll explain it so that it will be easier for you to understand. Turnkey project is like an agreement. Now, if it is an agreement, there should be two parties involved. Yes, the first party is the seller and the second party is the buyer. Okay, I hope this is clear. Now, what is happening in this turnkey project? The seller is supplying to the buyer a fully equipped and ready to be operated business training facility. That is, seller is providing the buyer of the product a fully equipped mechanism and also training will be given to the buyer place and to the buyer's personnel, that is the buyer's staff. So they are providing with the raw materials, they are providing with the training to the buyers. What these buyer have to do, the buyers, that is the buyer's personnel or the buyer's staff, have to perform the task within a stipulated period of time. That is what turnkey project means. The term is sometimes used in fast food franchising and when franchisor agrees to select a store site or build the store, equip it, train the franchising and employees and sometimes arrange for the financing. That is, as in said in this point, turnkey project is just like franchising. Now, what happens in franchising is there is one parent company Now it wants to establish its unit in several other places. But what it wants to aim at is whatever operations and in whichever style they are operating in this country, the same type of operation they want to be operated in other country as well. So what they will do, they will come to this country, they will build the store, they will equip it, and also they will give the training to whoever localites are there and are employed in this organization, so that the type of the business which is happening in this country and in this country will be exactly the same. This is majorly done so that the brand image can be kept intact and they can gain a lot of audience or customers in the worldwide market. That is what this turnkey project also means. But here it also involves government and public sector projects where many of the projects like infrastructure or building contracts are involved. Some turnkey projects may be subcontractual and some may be a full-time. And turnkey projects are common in international business. That is why the erection and commissioning of the plants or oil refineries or steel mills, cement, fertilizer plants, all these contracts are in the form of a turnkey project. So this is the best way to enter into a foreign market if you are ready to provide with the well-equipped equipments, to provide them with the training. At that time, you can enter into a foreign market easily by entering into the other country by turnkey projects. I hope this was clear. We'll move on to the next term, which is your wholly owned manufacturing facility. Wholly owned manufacturing facility are those facilities or companies where long-term and substantial interest in the foreign market normally establish there. That is, they have a full term or full interest on entering into the foreign market. As we have seen in the exporting point that they have low interest, but wholly owned manufacturing have substantial interest or a long-term interest to be in the foreign market and to stick there and to make progress there. So that is why this wholly owned manufacturing facility is considered as the best one out of these strategies of entering into the globalization. As Drucker points out, it is simply not possible to maintain sustainable market standing man important area, unless one has physical presence as a producer. That means if you want to make an impact in the foreign market, the physical presence in that market is very essential. So what this wholly owned manufacturing facility says that instead of providing them with certain facilities, instead of providing them with the well-equipped furnishing and all, just establish your unit there so that you can have your physical presence and make sure that whatever output is going to happen in that country is up to the mark under your guidance. So that is what this wholly owned manufacturing facility concentrates on. There are a number of factors here involved, although there are trade barriers, difference in the production, or government policy. You have to undergo all these things. And if your company is ready to manage all these factors, only then you can choose this. It provides the firm with complete control over the production. It has the risk, it does not have the risk of developing potential competitors because they themselves are establishing their unit there. So the risk of someone stealing your secrets or someone stealing your business idea is very less because you yourself have established your unit there. And in some cases, the cost of production is high. So if you are ready to bear this cost, then this wholly owned manufacturing unit is one of the best options. There are options other than this, which we'll be seeing on in the later slides. Okay. Before that, as I said that there are trade barriers, there are also other barriers, like there may be restrictions regarding the type of technology. Whatever type of technology you are using to produce one particular unit, that type of technology might not be accepted there. So that is one type of risk. There may not be skilled labor available in that country, and also infrastructural problems may also arise there. So these were one of the problems. And also, if the market size is small at that time, a separate production unit for the market may be uneconomical. That is, if at all the size of the population in that country is small, or the potential customer strength in that country for your product is small. You establishing your entire unit for that small audience does not make any sense. So that is why it has certain risks attached to it, although it has certain advantage. If the company is ready to tackle all these risks, then they can directly enter into the foreign market by establishing the unit and showing their physical presence in the foreign market by wholly owned facility. Next type of mode to enter into a foreign market, that is, we are talking about the eighth mode, is assembly operations. Assembly operations, the word itself says that it is an assembly chain where you are assembling the goods or services. Overseas assembly facilitated in the selected market is where assembly operations represents a cross between exporting and overseas manufacturing. So it is like exporting as well as it is also like overseas marketing. The overseas marketing or the exporting just focused on selling, but here what happens is they also focus on assembling the goods and products, and that is why this is added as a one more mode to the globalization. Having assembly facility in the foreign market is very ideal when there is economies of scale. I hope you are familiar with this term, economies of scale, but if not, I will explain it. Economies of scale means that you are able to produce in a large scale, and whatever production you have produced in the large scale, it will be resulting in lower per unit cost of production. Okay, you are producing in such a large scale that the cost of production, that is per unit cost of production, is very bare minimum, and that means economies of scale. So all those units that have economies of scale in manufacturing certain parts or components, at that time they can go for this assembly operation. Assembly operations are labor intensive and labor is cheaply available in the foreign country. So if you are labor intensive country, at that time assembly operation will be running smoothly in that country. It may also be noted that a number of US manufacturers ship the parts and components to a developing country and get the products assembled there and also bring it back home. Because they find the labor cheaply available in the other country, instead of assembling the goods there, they will send these goods to another country, they will get it assembled, and then they will bring back to the home country. This is how this technique works. And the US tariff law also encourages this. So if the tariff is good, if you are labor intensive, and also if you are a company which is having economies of scale, then this is the best mode to enter into a foreign market. Moving on to the ninth mode of entering into the foreign market, joint ventures. Joint ventures is where ownership and management are shared between foreign firm and a local firm. In a country where fully foreign-owned firms are not allowed or favored, joint venture will be the best alternative. Like we have seen in wholly owned manufacturing unit, where you are establishing your entire unit in a foreign country. If this is not possible, or if it is not allowed in a foreign country, at that time joint venture is the best option for you. Joint venture, what happens here? It permits the firms with limited resources to enter into a foreign market, and also it will help you to build your business, because if you have a local partner in the foreign country, you'll have various advantages, like you will get competitiveness, you can get overhead of the cultural barriers, and also it will bridge the gap which is there between a manufacturer and the market. That is why joint venture is considered as the successful out of all of the modes of entering into the global business. It will be successful only if both the partners have same thing in a definite and in an orderly manner. Only then they'll have a mutual trust and respect towards each other. This is the most important point here. Okay, moving on to the next one, that is the 10th mode of entering into the global market, that is third country location. When there are no commercial transactions between two nations because of political reasons, or when there is no direct relations. Third country location means, see here there is country A, here there is country B. Now there is no good relation between two of these countries, but you want to establish your business in this country in some or other manner. So what you do is you take the help of other country. I'll name this country as A, this country as B, and this country as C. Okay, A and B are the country which are not having good relation among each other, but they want to establish their units there. Now what happens is A has good relationship with country C. Similarly, B has good relationship with country C. Now what A does is A takes the help of C in order to establish its unit in the country B. That is how this third country location works like. Okay. Two nations are difficult due to political reasons. At that time, they take the help of a third country and then they establish their foreign market there. For example, Rank, Xerox were found due to these type of relation with a foreign country. Further, third country location may be restored and reduce the cost of production. It may also increase competitiveness and facilitate market entry. It also provides government incentives and also helps in encouraging the exports and discouraging the imports. Okay. Moving on to the next set, the 11th type of mode of entry into the global market, mergers and acquisitions. Mergers and acquisitions, if there is a country and if there is country B. Okay, if there is a country, A firm and a B firm. Okay, let me name this as A firm and let me name this as B firm. Now A and B, if they merge together at that time, what happens is they can establish their business in a stronger manner. So if this is A in a separate country and if this B is in a separate country, if these two companies merge, that means they are getting the competitive advantage of two countries. They'll get new technology, they'll get new patents, they'll get government incentives, and also it'll give rise to some problems because there is deficiency of evaluation in certain cases, but they also have advantages in the larger sense. So, if they can tackle these problems at that time, mergers and acquisitions can find a good role. Next type of entering into the global business is a strategic alliance. Now, strategic alliance is also known as intent or coalition. The strategy seeks in enhance to the long-term competitive advantage and also if it is existing or potential way of critical areas. Instead of competing with each other, they can make use of the advantages which they are seeking in these two firms and they can form an alliance and that alliance itself is known as a strategic alliance. Instead of fighting with the two firms, if they come into a coalition and they enter into an alliance, the business can be shared, the business can be grown further, and the sales can be promoted on a larger scale. And lastly, we are going to read about counter trade. Counter trade means it is like a barter system. Earlier, what barter system used to do is they used to trade one product for other product, and instead of paying money, what was exchanged? Products was exchanged. Similarly, counter trade means here there is exporting and importing of goods between the same country. Now, what happens is one country exports goods to other country and another country imports goods from that country. Now, instead of making the payment, they adjust the difference between the export and the import. That is the link between the export of goods and import of goods instead of making the payment in terms of money itself is termed as counter trade. And this link exchanges goods directly or indirectly in an attempt and it will help the currency transaction. It will help to reduce the currency transaction and also it will help to reduce whatever currency differences have been seen. This increases the export, it will help in developing the country and also it has been seen successful in a number of companies in the entire world. So, this is all about today's class. I hope you have found this class useful. Before summing up today's class, let me brief you on what and all we have covered. We have covered various strategies a company can use to enter into the global firm, where firstly we have seen about exporting, that is selling the goods to the foreign company directly, licensing and franchising, where you are lending the right or the permission to either use the intellectual property or to do the business in a prescribed manner to a foreign country. Contract manufacturing or assembling in a foreign country or management contract work in a foreign country, turnkey projects assigned to a foreign country, or you establishing your unit directly in the foreign country by wholly owned manufacturing facility. Or you can also assemble a chain of operation by assembly operation. You can enter through joint ventures, third country locations, mergers and acquisitions or alliances. And lastly, you can enter into a global market through counter trade, that is by exchanging the export to import. I hope this class was useful. If you have any doubts, then please do uh, suggest those doubts and share with me in the comment box down below. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like my videos, then please do like, share and subscribe to my channel. We'll meet you soon in next class with similar and interesting type of a content. Till then, see you and bye-bye.